the Marc City Bank.
Greetings today. Welcome to the Breadwork Network.
Thank you.
How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Glad to be here.
Well, I am glad to have you because I'm telling you, I've been doing a lot of research.
Yes.
And I'm a up-and-coming journalist, and I am a music enthusiast.
Okay.
So what I've been doing in the city of Detroit is I've been kind of digging through the underground scene.
Yes.
And as I've researched underdog Pillar Boy music, I've interviewed the Marc City and Joe Crook, and they have credited you as being a pillar in their music career and kind of like who they watched in their youth go at the music from a different perspective.
Okay.
And I found it interesting because, you know, most people say they look up to somebody famous.
Yes.
Or someone who is a household name. Maybe it has inspired them, but they have credited you. So it's a blessing to be able to find you to get the information that I need to either be confirmed or denied by who I have found out to be Mr. Moe Doc.
Okay.
So can you let me and the audience know who is Moe Doc?
Good question. Who is Moe Doc? Moe Doc is this Chicago-born Motowner who just happens to love music. I mean, it's been a passion of mine, I think, all my life. Now, the way I got the name was from years ago when I hung out with a group of friends in the music industry. And I used to greet everybody with, "What's up, doctor?" And so they started calling me Moe Doc Allen. And that's the story from there.
Wow. Okay. All right. So, what's up, doctor, then?
What's up, doctor?
All righty. So you say you said something interesting. You know, most people when they say where they're from, they say city state. You said Chicago-born Motown.
Yes. Yes.
Can you elaborate on that?
I sure can. Born in Chicago, I spent my first 15 years in Chicago. I've been here in Detroit longer. So from that point, 1971 when I came to Detroit, I've been a Detroiter, a Motowner, and even better than that, a Highland Parker. So my Chicago roots are still there, but Chicago and Detroit are so close, and so close in the styles. It was not a hard transition for me to get here. It wasn't a hard transition at all. And then when I think about the music industry and the music that I've loved for so long, it started in Chicago. And we listened to the Motown sound when I was coming up. So I'm that 50s born child that was raised in the 60s and the 70s, and that's all we heard was the Motown sound. So by the time we got here, Motown moved to California that same summer. So it was a disappointment, but I still have the music in me.
Okay. Okay. So would you credit the Motown sound as some of your influences, or did you have any other influences outside of that particular sound or genre of music?
I did. Now, when I first got into music, or my first memories of music was mostly what my parents listened to and my grandparents. Okay. So it was jazz music. Rhythm and blues was the real title at the beginning. It wasn't R&B as we know it today. It was called rhythm and blues. So you would have those blues artists and some of the jazz artists that would transfer over to that genre. But rhythm and blues, I had artists like Ray Charles, artists like Sarah Vaughan. I listened to them because my parents listened to them.
Okay.
Ahmed Jamal, when you talk about the music, the instrumental musicians. Nancy Wilson's. We just lost her this past week. And she was my heart. I love Nancy Wilson. Her first album that I remember when I was 7 years old, I fell in love with it. I know every song on that album. And that has just been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. And I'd even look at different events in my life, and I can take a song and attach it to it.
So it's kind of like music being timeless.
Yes, yes. And the music that I listen to, I can listen to it today, and it would apply to different things that I'm going through today, but it applied then as well. So you can listen to a Marvin Gaye, What's Going On.
Man, it's so applicable
still. Yeah, it is. That was 1971. So when we moved here, that was the soundtrack of my first summer here in Detroit. What's going on?
So that always kind of takes you back when you
hear it. It does. It absolutely does.
The transition.
Yes, yes.
Wow.
And Marvin's not here. He hasn't been here for 35 years. And but he's still here because that music still lives.
Indeed, indeed.
Yes.
Now you spoke about something in that, and you mentioned Highland Park. What does Highland Park mean to you?
Highland Park was a refuge when we got here. Growing up on the south side of Chicago, it was crazy. It was rough. We lived in the last place where we lived there. We lived in the territory between the Blackstone Rangers and the Disciples.
Those are the two rival gangs out there, yeah.
And we were at that age when they could recruit you. So the recruiting was the crazy part. I was 15 when we left and came here. My brothers were 14 and 11. So they always said that 12 years old was the age that they would start recruiting you. So my mother kept us active enough in Chicago so that we wouldn't get caught out in the streets hanging out with a lot of these guys that we went to school with. But most of them were younger brothers to some of the guys that were really active members in the gangs.
Okay, okay. So with that temptation in Chicago and being blessed to be able to come to Motown and hear the Motown sound, and it seems that you had a lot of influence, musical influence through family. Did you wind up playing any instruments, or what did you get any, like, do you read music?
I cannot read music. I know what the notes are on the pages, but I couldn't read and play. This is what happened to me when I was about 7, right around the time I met Nancy Wilson, on the album that is still close to my heart. We had a piano in the home. We were living with my aunt, my mother's sister, and her family, and my grandmother, my mother's mother, would come over and babysit my youngest brother, who was just 2 years old, and my cousin, who was a year old. And I came home one day from school, and the piano was gone.
Wow.
So my question to my grandmother was, where's my piano? I didn't buy the piano, but that was my question, because I came home and I played the Star Spangled Banner every day when I came home from school. Or grandmama would teach me how to play chopsticks, and she would play it there with me at the piano. Well, she said, well, the piano's next door. My uncle, my aunt's husband, had a brother that lived directly next door to us. He had 2 daughters and then a baby son and a baby on the way. Well, the 2 daughters were taking piano lessons, and so they moved the piano from our house next door. Mm-hmm. So I said, well, they could have taken piano lessons here, and they said no, they had to have it over there because the piano teacher came to their house. And I said, well, I want to take piano lessons. I promise you, to this day, I don't know who said it to me, but somebody said, boys don't play piano. And that is stuck in my subconscious for over 55 years.
Right.
That someone said, I think I blocked it out, whoever said it, because I'd probably be kind of angry with them now. But they said boys don't play piano. So I thought about the Ray Charleses, the Count Basies, the Duke Ellingtons. Weren't they boys at one point?
Exactly.
And they play piano.
Yeah, exactly.
So I couldn't understand it, but I had to let it go. So I never learned how to play a piano. I know what to do on a piano, but I never learned how to play a piano enough to come home, sit down, and just play myself into some solitude or some rest and relaxation. But I have played a piano before, and that's the only instrument that I gravitated to.
Okay, okay. Now let's like I said, I did a little research.
Okay.
So I think I might pat myself on the back for my journalist skills, but let's do word assimilation.
Okay.
And I'll say a word, and you just tell me what comes to mind.
Okay.